Southeast. So did you know when you were at Southeast that you wanted to be an engineer? And then like what at Southeast, if anything, helped prepare you or lead you into that?
Yeah, it's actually, I have a very strange back in, I think it was second grade or third grade. We had to fill out these, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I literally wrote back in there in my folder, electrical engineer. And I think the only reason I did was because I had an uncle that was an engineer, and I just liked the idea of, electronics and powering things and how that all worked. But I did always want to be an engineer. I was really excited to just tinker with things, and I love the idea of building something. And I was never really a person that was in the machine shop or like constructing things with like furniture or anything like that. I loved to just kind of try to put together random mouse traps of stuff when I was little, connecting one thing to the other and trying to catch stuff. And so I was always just kind of inquisitive, I guess, in terms of building things. And so as I got into high school, I remember one of our good family friends got me into writing some QBasic programs, and I thought that was really cool. And so decided at that point I wanted to go more into the computers side of it, but really still liked electronics. And so computer engineering for me was kind of a perfect fit because it was a combination of both software and obviously the electrical component from an engineering perspective.
So what like hobbies can kids pick up when they're in high school? Like you talked about putting stuff together. What are the things that you can do before you go to college to learn about this stuff to make you better at this for later?
Well, I think when I was going through, there was some very basic access to things. We had I think when I was a junior, when we first got the technology lab, that was all built out. It was the first kind of new addition in the building at Southeast. And that was pretty awesome to be able to just kind of tinker with some of the new technology. I think there was like radar and, obviously we had all the standard keyboarding classes and things like that. But nowadays, looking back, that was really all we had access to. The internet, was there. You could look up stuff, but you didn't have the accessibility to learn programming languages or be able to do something so powerful so quickly that you can today. And so if I'm in high school or I would be, there are just so many online resources to learn how to do something from a cloud perspective. And I think once you get that experience, because it's so easy and so accessible to write a program and build, launch it into AWS and write a web application or a website or anything, I think that it gives you the ability to understand how you can create something and it's instantly available all over the world. And that's a huge motivating factor. And so there are just a ton of online resources now to go through trainings, and you can learn that really quickly and be able to write programs and things like that. So I would be looking for online courses and look for just fun activities that you can understand what it means to really build software, because software is a classic saying. Software is eating the world. Basically, any industry now has a major software component to it, and that's definitely something that I think any profession you go into, you're going to learn a ton by at least understanding how that works.
So can you kind of describe I mean, it's obviously a lot different now. So that like you talked about how this would be a little, differently applicable because we've just progressed from where you started. But can you kind of describe your path through like post high school and college, and then kind of just up to where you got now?
Yeah. So, I knew I wanted to be an engineer, and I loved computers. And so going into computer engineering at K-State, obviously a phenomenal engineering program. It was just as much kind of as an extension of high school, of just learning how to work also in group settings and group projects, in addition to kind of the industry skills of what does it mean to build a circuit board and to do software development, and then all the layers that go into that. That's all great from a foundation knowledge standpoint, but obviously it's those higher level classes where you can see what you're building on top of really start to come to fruition. Whether it's designing a microcontroller or a circuit that ends up being the foundational component of a computer that you're writing all the software on top of. And so in college, we had several early classes that were just kind of intro classes that allowed you to kind of try to see that early, that kept you excited and motivated to continue through the really tough classes. There's lots of math and circuit theory and electronics classes that are challenging. Fundamentals that you need to understand, but as you get through all of that, you're going to live usually at a higher level to be able to build things in the real world, and just you just make yourself a better engineer by understanding kind of the why you have to pay attention to memory consumption or caching mechanisms or any other compliance issues or things like that are fundamentals, but you quickly start taking advantage of higher level tools. So I think in my experience going through college, it was a good bridge of group work and understanding and all those fundamentals. And then I would highly recommend as early as possible taking internships in the related fields and getting some of that real world experience. Some internships are definitely better than others, and I was very fortunate to get an internship at Sprint in Kansas City for one summer. That was a good one from just understanding how networks work. And then ultimately, my first job after I graduated was with a company called National Instruments here in Austin. And the reason we moved down to Austin, and it was a phenomenal company for really getting a fire hose of industry experience within the first couple years. You start in a program called applications engineering, which is kind of like support, but it's a very technical engineering level of support that you're providing to their customers, because they're purchasing hardware and software from the company and building it into extremely complex situations that you have to understand how all of that works in order to help support them. It's not just powered on and off type tech support. So I think it was very fortunate to kind of find that role, and that was a great launch point to understand where I wanted to go. And in the engineering side, at least with a company like National Instruments, you can go down marketing, because there's product marketing, which requires engineering level expertise to be good at product marketing at that company. Then there's obviously R&D, which is the development of all the products. And then there's sales. So you also need sales engineers that can have to understand the complexity of the customer situation so they can sell the product. And then we have solutions and other categories. But the program I went after I graduated was an awesome program because you got experience in all of those to kind of test out time. And basically you get to choose whatever path you want to go down. So I chose R&D, went into product development and some product management for a couple of years. Did basically hardware development for these big, basically it's like a laptop motherboard folded in half and in a very industrialized chassis that people use in really intense environments to do testing and automation. And then did hardware product management for that, and then also switched over and did product management for some of our firmware for some of these devices in what's called our embedded networks team that focused on automotive networks and things like all the different communication protocols in the car. So so I got both hardware and software experience as I exited the first kind of entry level part of my career. And ultimately, when I was in the software side, I just really wanted to go and try to see if I could build something myself versus continuing down just the large company progression. And while I was at National Instruments, I had built, I retooled our development test suite and actually made it a cloud application that all of our test harnesses fed into, and dynamically provided test reports of everything. And this is kind of before there was a better tool chain to do all of that. Connected up to a database, made it all a web application with a full backend. And that project and doing that got me so excited, I realized that's what I wanted to do long term. And so I left National Instruments in 2013 to help found a company called Pristine. where I started with a couple of guys once they launched Google Glass in the augmented reality space. And so we built a product that enhanced the ability to do video streaming from Google Glass first edition for the medical field. And so you can think a physician basically is in a procedure and needs help with a new medical instrument. They could actually remote somebody in anywhere in the world, and they could beam in and see and hear everything that they're doing in the actual operating room. And because you're wearing it on your face, it's a sterile environment, and so they can actually talk to them and guide them through how to use that new medical device. So we provided a platform that facilitated that, and also different some other medical scenarios. And then we shifted the product to focus outside of the healthcare space into manufacturing. So we provided basically the ability to do remote support through these devices when you're hands-on in your job and you can't, pick up a phone or call in, or it's basically I've got to be out on the job site and I need somebody to help remote in and help me do something. We were acquired then in 2017 by a little bit bigger startup in our space. And we're able to join that team and basically take all of our technology and merge it with theirs, and built a full workforce workflow solution that allowed you to define basically a step-by-step approach to doing things in an industrial setting. So if I'm building a widget and I need instructions, I need to follow this repetitively, the platform allowed you to define all of that in a main dashboard. And then you're able to actually monitor progress of everybody in the field that's using that workflow. And so then there was enhancements on top of that for being able to capture anomalies or photos and videos at the point at which there was a problem with the build process, for example. So companies like Boeing working on an engine was one of our customers, and they would actually use our product. They were able to be up inside the engine of the plane and be putting things together, and instead of having to get out of it, go to their manual and open it up and find the instructions, or to a computer screen that's on a desktop across the manufacturing floor. They literally had all that information on them while they were doing their job. And then they could use, we had basically natural language processing and things that we built into it to allow them to progress through via voice command. So my progression was really about, just that first industry experience of Firehose, being ambitious and excited to build things myself. So I took the leap outside of the corporate world and decided to start a company. I think I've learned there's a lot of ups and downs in all your job situations and in life, and realized that as long as you're passionate and you've got some grit to get through the times that are challenging, you're going to be successful if you keep pushing hard. And so it was exciting for when we got acquired. And then most recently, I left and am now senior vice president of a company called WellTalk, which is a little bit bigger, and run the engineering team for it's a kind of a healthcare company with a much bigger platform and really exciting scale opportunities in the future. So just kind of a little bit of my path.
So when you're talking about all those different things you did at Instruments, you created that thing, and then with the augmented reality, which one of the ones? And I saw that they listed this on the article thing under like 20 years since graduation. Which of the things that you've made or worked on is your absolute favorite that you're most proud of so far, and what went into that, and why is it the one you're most proud of?
Great question. I would say, before I left Upskill recently, I had spent the previous year and a half basically re-architecting the platform. And it's kind of a lesson learned of, there was a way that the company was used to thinking about solving problems with how the platform worked. And we were never able to get out from underneath putting ourselves in the direct flow of, if a customer wants a solution, they can't just buy the product. They also have to hire us to build out the solution as well, because the way it works is just fundamentally very hard and to get a full in solution deployed. And I had thought for a while after we had built and integrated once we got acquired that it just felt really kind of the opposite of the way it should be. And so was able to convince our executive team and basically spent the next year starting with a small group building out a proof of concept, finding success, then kind of making it more and more throughout the year part of the roadmap and the pipeline. And then pretty soon we had the entire team working on this new architecture and this new approach. And it was through that experience, there's always people that are, when you're really fundamentally changing a paradigm, that are going to be nervous about it or not believe in it. And I was so confident in that it was the absolute right way to go based on how our business works, and kept driving. And you have to learn how to, basically cheerlead a little bit and get the right people on your side that are the other technical advocates on your team, and getting them excited about and the why you're doing what you're doing and the impact. You just slowly turn the switch on a few people and they become seeds in those other teams that then start to get other people excited, and then it starts to grow and spread, basically. And once we reached a point of the way it worked, light bulbs went off for people of realizing, oh, wow, I can do this, which is 10 times more powerful and flexible than we ever could before. And I didn't realize it until we got far enough along. And I could see that. I could see it all the way down the roadmap. But I knew it was going to take a lot of time and cheerleading to get us there, because getting over that hump was the biggest challenge. And so last year we launched it, the new product, and turned it over to a few of our customers we'd had for a while, and some that were very technically capable of building their own solutions, and they were just floored by the product and technology. So for me, that was a big moment of just believing in what I really thought and taking a big chance and just driving it forward. And that was one of the things I'm most proud of.
Yeah, that's really cool that it was like not even like a specific thing you built. It was more of a leadership thing. Because I know a lot of the kids, it's usually not the first thing that comes to mind here when we have FCCOA and FFA, these leadership things. It's like, oh, engineering, I want to be an engineer, so I'm going to join this leadership club for it. But I definitely see now how that could be really important for people that want to do that. And so this one's a little bit off topic we were just talking about, but it's just it's really hard to think about, and this is different just for every field of engineers probably, but specific to what you do, what's your typical work day look like? Even what time do you get up and go to work, and then what do you do throughout the day? Or is it just always changing and there really isn't a typical?
I would say the week has a standard set of meetings and things that are done that are pretty, pretty much from a cadence standpoint. It's you can rely on that reliably from week to week. But as you go from individual contributor into more of a management role or an executive level management role, you just have to be willing to understand that you are going to have the majority of your day taken up by conversations. And that's going to be just every day. There's likely to be new issues that come up, whether that's a product support issue or a new sales opportunity or, a internal employee situation, and being able to stay methodical with your process around these. I've got to plan my day very strictly in terms of these are the critical meetings and things I've got to get done today. I've got them tracked in my system. You have to have a system of how do you funnel in all of your notes and everything that you're basically going to be moving through all the conversations in the day. And being able to put in, as you go through those, more and more tasks and priorities are going to come up, and making sure those funnel into a centralized place of to-dos and task management that you just have to constantly stack rank and prioritize, because you can't do everything. And the best thing you have to learn going through that progression is, how do you delegate, which, this is all pretty classic stuff you could look at, but, being able to delegate to the right people with the right skill set on your team and understanding their capacity and creating excitement for them of what they're working on, so that they get things done when you need them to get done, and holding them accountable. Those are the key things that help you survive kind of the daily rigor and the fluctuations that happen throughout the day. But from a cadence standpoint, I usually, right now, basically, I'm up around 5:30. Try to get in basically some little amount of exercise that happens sometimes or not. The pandemic's been a challenge, but and obviously, doing everything through the video interface through your computer is a challenge. Now, obviously, we're very fortunate in our industry to be able to do everything remotely, but I personally thrive off of the office environment and whiteboarding and being with my team. And so the last year from a pandemic standpoint has been a challenge, but you have to adjust. So if I'm not in the office, the daily routine right now, obviously, is just getting up, having a review of what's the schedule look like for the day, what are the core critical things that have to get done, and any prep work for any maybe critical meetings that are coming up that day or the next. And then once you kind of start the conversations of the day, they usually start for me around 8 a.m. And those are, from a technical standpoint, in the software world, the key kind of development flow is called Agile and Scrum. And so in an Agile Scrum kind of methodology, it means that there are daily 15-minute stand-ups with all of your development teams. And those are meant to be fast-paced, everybody, and they're called stand-ups for a reason, because they're not meant to be a long meeting of solutioning, but more of like, what's on my plate for today, what's been blocking me, and who do I need to coordinate with next to solve whatever I'm working on. And just making sure there's constant alignment. So that happens every day from 8 to 9, basically, over all of my development teams. And I try to join all those every day so that I get that constant pulse from the team. I'm not driving those meetings, but I'm a participant. And then it's usually maybe there's a couple of one-on-ones with other people that are longer sessions where we're going through kind of their priorities and career growth. And then there's project level meetings where we're going through status of projects or making brainstorming meetings to look for new solutions for upcoming features or architectures. And then you're kind of wrapping up at the end of the day around 5:36 to try to make sure the team, if there was anything left over from the day that needs to be captured from a notes or send out standpoint, you might need to send out some information to whatever the meetings are you had, and then try to close up with some planning for the next day before I go to bed that night, so that the next morning's a little more smooth when I wake up. But that's kind of the high level, just a series of development status meetings that are quick, project meetings, one-on-ones, and then, depending on the day of the week, there's probably some executive meetings from kind of a cross-org alignment for the way our CEO runs the company is very quarterly goal focused. And so we have the quarterly goals across all the teams we're committed to, and we're constantly checking in on those and tracking towards them.
Well, and then we'll finish with kind of an abstract. And this one was, what's a piece of advice you would give to Southeast grads that want to go into computer engineering that you wish you knew before you went into it?
I would say, I say in the engineering industry, if there's definitely room for certain folks to be an individual contributor, and that's fantastic if you really want to grow in that role. But you are always going to have to interface with lots of people and come up with solutions, creative ones, and pattern matching ones. So I would say, while I think sometimes in group projects and group thinking, sometimes it almost felt unnecessary where we needed, you could just go solve the problem. But as you get into industry, everything is done, working with people and working on projects together. And so really embracing the idea of those project level groups or those group level projects and what you can learn out of working well with other people and learning how to divide up tasks and priorities and setting a schedule. Those are critical things that are going to help you in your career beyond just the technical knowledge. And especially in the engineering field, being able to work really well in those settings is critical. The other thing I'll say is I cherished, I studied abroad when I was in college, and just the diversity of opinions and people that you meet is, I think, is a massive just kind of elevator of the way you think and understand the world around you. And so any opportunities you have to work with a diverse set of people, go on a study abroad program, you just should absolutely go after it. I think it's one of the best experiences I ever had. So I would definitely encourage everyone to get out of their shell, their element, what feels probably safe, and to go experience the world.
Awesome. Mr. Keith, is that good? And while he's coming on, that's interesting because I was actually supposed to be in Germany this year, but it got canceled.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, that was rough, but
I'm sure. Sorry to hear that.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's all right.
it's going to change. It'll come back.
Yeah, I hope so. All good, Mr. Keith.